It's still happy hour with John Gaskins, so go ahead, have another.
Jackrabbit Media Day with the head of the SDSU offense. He is Eric Eidsness, and I was going to rattle off how many cumulative years has it been now here at South Dakota State?
This will be starting 18.
18.
Yep.
And please don't give the old line that makes you feel old. What is it like doing it that many times, coming into it again this time?
Yeah, every year's a new year.
Yeah.
It really is, because the kids change. Obviously, their staff changes. And us being a new staff last year together, working together. So there's always a different focus, and especially on your personnel. I think back to when, Zenner was playing, and then he got done, and you had Winnicky and Goddard, and then they got done, and then all of a sudden, it was Cade Johnson, and you always have to kind of work around those guys. So I think this year, guys being in year 2 with us, and then just looking ahead to the season and what we think we can do well, it creates a newness to it. And so I don't look at it as like, man, I've done this a lot of times. I look at it more as like the challenge that lies in front of us. So.
Sure. Look, it's a very popular line, a stock line, that everything's more advanced this year because a lot of the same guys are back. But also last year, some people were meeting each other for the first time in fall camp because of the spring portal. So I'd love to know in which specific ways, and you can break through multiple ones, about how things are more advanced, particularly on the offense at this time of year compared to 2 weeks before last year's opener.
Yeah, I think knowing the kids, knowing what they're capable of doing, being able to put the right things in front of them to focus on. Then in the off season, being able to really be able to take guys' games, critique them from the season, what they should work on to get better, what we think they can become, and setting goals and a vision for them is something that way. And then I just think guys working together. I mean, that is a big thing, because the more they work, when we're not around, I always tell them, like, hey, what you do in the dark comes really, really bright in the light, And so if you haven't been working, everybody's going to know. If you've been working on stuff and it looks really good, we know you've been putting in the time and doing the work. And so a lot of guys bought into that and really wanted to get better. The impressive thing to me is when the starters, the seniors, the upperclassmen noticeably get better, then they're trying to become great at what they do, and that's really gratifying and fun to see as a coach.
Hey, you love the line players, not plays. Yep. Everybody talks about how cool it would be to be an OC, to design and call plays, and it is cool, right? And you went through a very philosophical and in-depth conversation about that with Matt Zimmer. I highly recommend people just Google it. Jack Chats, Zimmer, Eric Eidsness. But let's get to this year's players and plays. You famously were, okay, we have Zach Zenner, we're going to pound the ball. We have Taryn Christian and Jake Winnicky and Dallas Goddard. Okay, we're going to be more of an air assault. What do these players present for you?
Yeah, I think we can be a very balanced offense this year. Whether that's 55 run, 45 pass. I think you have RPOs built in there, so that always can skew things depending on how a defense wants to play you. I think Chase's ability to see more things. Obviously he grew up a quarterback, but this was his first year really being a college quarterback, and the growth that happens, like when Taryn Christian played as a true freshman, after that spring and that off season, he was so much better. And I look at what Chase is seeing right now and the way he's executing, and the confidence he has in the guys around them that they're going to do what he signals and stuff like that. I think the freedom to do that is starting to show through, and so just excited, just to see how those guys get on the same page. But I think the biggest thing is, how do we get the ball to the guys that can make differences? And Chase understands that, and we, hey, this guy's good at this, or we need to get this guy a touch. When you build your openers, you're trying to make sure the ball gets in the hands of, 2 or 3 guys early to try to get them going. And I think not only, from a staff standpoint, we're understanding, but I think from a player standpoint, and more importantly, Chase, to get them the ball and do those things, I think really is evident as we go through this stuff, and it's exciting to see him just operate that way.
You may have answered some of my question, but when you say the way he sees things, give us some examples of things you've seen, especially recently, knowing we're getting closer and you're doing more game-like situations, of the layers he's added to his game. When you say he's seeing things, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, one example would be this morning at practice. We've got a play called, and the number one receiver to the field is going to run an out. Well, he saw the coverage was no high safeties, cover 4, so he signaled post to Graham. Graham caught it for a touchdown about 55 yards. I mean, it's just, and to the average person watching, they would think, oh, that's awesome. What a great deal.
Yeah.
They don't understand what went into it, right? Like Chase has to recognize the coverage. He has to understand that there isn't blitz coming. Then he signals. Graham has to see the signal. Then they go out and everybody does their 1/11th, and then all of a sudden it's a big play for us. So, but it's cool, and getting the receivers and the quarterbacks oftentimes in the same room to have the receivers hear what the quarterbacks are thinking is really, really important, because then when they look up and they see that, they know, hey, Chase might be doing this now. I got to make sure I'm paying attention to what he's thinking. So seeing that, he has a lot of run checks that we do in our system, getting the play run to the correct side, whether it's by the front of the defense, whether it's by the numbers of the defense, and just knowing like what plays we want to run with blitz, what plays we want to run into blitz. And so there's a lot that goes through a guy's head.
Oh my gosh.
When you got that play clock and it's ticking down, and he's understanding and seeing it. Just the progression we go through from a quarterback standpoint with safeties, eyes, leverage, those things. He's just getting to the answer so much faster and understanding that, and that's exciting, because the stuff that you're teaching, the stuff that's being taught is you're seeing it on the field. And that's when it gets really fun to play quarterback and really fun to coach a quarterback.
How much easier is it to dial up either more risky plays or more explosive plays, or when you add Lofton Ogroski back to the wide receiver arsenal? Yeah,
really, really. I mean, he is through fall camp right now. We're averaging just under 20 yards of completion to him, which is awesome. And I think just the guy catches the ball, he tracks the ball. People talk about 50-50 play. Like I told Chase, I go, it's like 80-20, 90-10, like in our favor. So put the ball where he has a chance to go get it, and he's going to go get it. And having that confidence to be able to have a receiver that you can do that with. Taryn had it with Jake Winicky. Like I just got to put it up there and give him a chance to go get it. He was going to go get it. So I think when that chemistry is there, but really the belief and just the understanding of, what a defense is trying to do, then it makes it easier to do that. So, getting Lofton back and finding creative ways for him to touch the ball is exciting.
Running back room, who's emerging, or does it feel like it's going to be more of running back by committee?
I think that we're preparing like it's going to be more of a committee right now. I think as the season goes on, part of it is durability too, and just being able to carry the ball a number of times. That was one thing with Zach. Our goal was no more than 25 carries in a game. It really was 22 carries and 3 extra touches on screens or things. I don't know that we have a guy in the room that's physically and mentally ready to do that yet. So I think we have to kind of a little bit more committee. I think we'll probably, Corey Blair, Josiah Johnson have really become pretty consistent. James Basinger Jr. I mean, all 4 of them have done really good things. But it takes a lot to be the guy, and everybody wants to be that guy, but the training, the conditioning, the stuff that goes into it, the amount of things that Zenner would do, from yoga to extra stretching to saunas to cold tubs. I mean, it's a lot, and you throw that many extra things into a day where you've got to carve out that time to do it. Not everybody is disciplined enough to do that. And our great backs that have been here, whether it was Zenner, Brady Mangarelli, Pierre Strong, when I was here, all those guys were bought into doing those things. They weren't just talented; they were committed to the process. So,
oh man, I looked at I went back to look at a bunch of offensive statistics and metrics, and there are the ones that go beyond the at first blush total offense, total rushing, passing, scoring offense, all that stuff, and where you ranked. But then I thought, is it fair to go back to your overall statistics when you were without Chase for 4 or 5 games? I mean, how different of an offense was that to live in, and how do you go about trying to decide what you need to get better and how you get better at it this year when that was almost half your season?
Yeah, it was a tough stretch, and when we first got here, just building and putting together a roster, we knew we needed to continue to get better in that room, the quarterback room, and we felt like Chase's development was really good, but then we were really young behind him, right? It was all redshirt freshmen and true freshmen basically, and so from that standpoint, we had to keep it simpler.
Yeah,
we had to do things that, and then we didn't have Lofton during that stretch, and so that would have been helpful, for a quarterback to have a guy that to that level, and just getting him the balls in some different ways, right, to take some pressure off of the quarterback. But
the stats and productivity would have been a lot higher.
it certainly wouldn't have hurt, right?
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing, the stat that matters most is wins and
of course
losses. And every week we went into it trying to figure out how could we best win, between the defensive game plan, the offensive game plan. Dan looks very heavily at special teams, like can we steal a possession there, all those things. And so there was a lot that went into it. But really, part of it too, just not being around those guys coming in, it was what are they capable of? You have an idea, but until they get on the field, I had a good idea of what Chase could do going into spring, coming out of spring, going into summer, coming out of summer last year. And so the growth was really, really good, and just his understanding of what we wanted to do. Now it's at another level. And last year, the guys behind him, maybe not quite as much of a foundational understanding of what they would do best.
Okay.
And so, being able to find those things, you obviously want to win the game, what you don't want to do is lose the game.
Okay.
If that makes a difference.
Of course.
And I always tell guys, do you hate to lose or do you love to win? There's a difference within those things. And if you hate to lose, that means your preparation is going to be outstanding. You're going to do everything it takes, to put yourself in that position. Well, me as a coordinator, I have to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
How can I help him be successful, within that? And so we all grew, but I know that room is really elevated. The guys behind Chase now, the way they're playing, the things they're seeing, the stuff they're thinking is at a much higher level than it was a year ago. And, hopefully we don't have to see some of those guys play this year, but or maybe if we can get ahead in some games, they get some opportunities to do that. But I'm confident if they go into the game, we're going to be in good shape.
Have you found that number 2 yet?
It's a battle right now between Josh Holst and Henry.
Okay.
And we've kind of just tried to give them balanced reps, even reps. I feel like we played 3 quarterbacks last year, so we got to keep developing guys. They're, especially Henry is still really young, and so to settle in on strictly a number 2 and not develop along the way, because one guy, just a little more development could push him past somebody. And so excited about that and just his growth with Henry and Josh. And so probably as we get right to game week, then we'll settle in and when we start running scout team and doing those things. But all 3 will be with me.
Okay.
So
you've answered one of the top few questions fans want to know about. So that's where we are on this day, August 12th. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Eric Eidsness, your offensive coordinator. Happy hour. Thanks.